This is Fox 4 News at 5.
Thanks for joining us for Fox 4 News at 5. I'm Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. As expected, isolated showers and storms bubbling up in our inland communities, but right along the coastline, we are on the dry side. So I wanted to show you where some of those big downpours are right now. But first, we start with a live look from the Bayfront Inn. And as we look inland, you can see some of those cumulus clouds puffing up there, indicating those storms that continue to build. But as we look now for what is on radar, you can see where those storms are currently situated. So primarily northern Collier County, stretching up to parts of southern Lehigh. That's where we currently have some of these downpours. This storm right here in between Orange Tree and Ave Maria continuing to fizzle out, but we are under a flood advisory here because we picked up a lot of rainfall in a short amount of time. The storm nearly stationary, but continuing to dwindle down. So heads up there if you are in that area. Also watching this particular downpour right along 82 as you head down into Hendry. Coming up, we're tracking more storms that are on the way, developing later on this week.
Opening statements today in a murder case in Cape Coral going back to 1990. Joseph Zeiler is facing the death penalty if convicted of raping and killing 11-year-old Robin Cornell and her babysitter that night, Lisa Story. During opening statements, the state described the crime scene from that night. They say Robin's mother went to her boyfriend's house and came back around 4 the next morning. And when she got home, she saw a ransacked home and found the bodies bloodied, bruised, and without clothing. The state says it is focusing on the pillowcases, the bedsheet, and where Robin's body was found, where they found semen they believe coming from Zeiler. The defense says it's focusing on a watch the babysitter, Lisa Story, purchased for her boyfriend and the placement of the photos found at the crime scene, as the defense believes someone who knew the Cornell family committed the crimes.
This is not something that the state has to prove. It's not an element of the offense, but nevertheless, it's still something that pops up in these types of cases. That word is motive. Mr. Zeiler had no motive.
The semen that is found on the bedsheet where Robin was sleeping when she was murdered matches the defendant to a frequency at over 1 in 700 billion. And it's actually even better than that. But FDLE stops at 700 billion because the human mind can't even fathom a number bigger than that.
Samples were taken from Lisa's Story, but the state says it was not enough to get DNA. There was a hair found on her body, but the state says the likelihood that Zeiler does not match the DNA is 1 in 16 million. We're also learning more about a stabbing from Fort Myers on Monday. Police say it happened around 2 in the morning on Marsh Avenue near the Billy Creek Preserve. 2 people went to the hospital. So far, no suspects in custody. Investigators believe the victims did know each other, calling this an isolated incident. And not your typical rescue in Lee County. Take a look at this. Several responders coming out to a call of a woman stuck in a culvert pipe. Firefighters set up a rope system within the drainage pipe to get her out. Officials say the woman was about 50 feet into the pipe. It took about 5 minutes to get her out. She went to the hospital to get checked out. And a note for drivers in Charlotte County, crews are doing traffic signal work on US 41, so do expect delays for tomorrow and Thursday from 9 to 5. Deputies will be on scene helping out with traffic, but there might be some lane closures and temporary delays.
I'm Colton Chavez, and I'm here in Naples because neighbors early Sunday morning say they walked out to their driveways right here on this street and say they found flyers that said it's okay to be white. Now, this comes after Governor Ron DeSantis just last month signed into law new crackdowns on hate crimes in Florida. Around 7 in the morning on this past Sunday, Collier County deputies say around 70 of these flyers were collected from this street and surrounding area in Naples, all with the text reading, "It's okay to be white." And underneath reads, "The Aryan Freedom Network and white-power.org. Ryan Coussart, the man Collier deputies say called in the suspicious incident, spoke with us about who could have done something like this.
I've been in this neighborhood for 6 weeks, every day, every morning, and the camaraderie that I get from the neighbors and people that just speak and genuinely say hi to you, I would not like to think that it was one of my neighbors.
This incident, which the Collier County Sheriff's Office says is an open investigation, comes as just last month Governor Ron DeSantis signed new crackdowns into state law that make it a felony to harass or intimidate people for their religion or ethnicity. So the question that remains is, does an incident like this one apply to this new state law? A deeper look at that on our website at fox4now.com. In Naples, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Sanibel Island, more than 7 months since Hurricane Ian hits. The post office is finally open again. The Sanibel Post Office will be open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturdays from 10 to noon. And work on the Fort Myers Beach Emergency Berm Project keeps up. Town leaders tell Fox 4 over the next few weeks, most of the work will take place from the Margaritaville build right there by Times Square, east to Mango Street, and Mid-Island to Flamingo Street. People might not be able to access the beach access points in these spots because of all of the work. Leaders suggest using the beach access entryways on the north end of Estero Island. Another day of signing bills for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. This morning, the governor signed 4 human trafficking bills. And DeSantis says the new legislation will not just raise awareness, but it will also impose reform to hold criminals accountable. And one of the bills he signed will make human traffickers eligible for mandatory minimum sentences if they possess or shoot a firearm during a crime.
Economic experts warn a recession could be closer than we think as soon as the second half of this year. And the debt limit is a major area of concern.
The bottom line is that we are at a point where the economy is in a very difficult position.
Last year, despite inflation hitting a 40-year peak, elevated gas prices, and the markets falling, we were still able to avoid a recession. But Bill Hoagland of the Bipartisan Policy Center says with 3 major bank failures in 2023, interest rate hikes, and the Fed not cutting rates, avoiding one this year won't be likely.
If we don't raise this debt limit, if we default, we will not have a recession, we'll have a depression, and that's what worries me more.
So what comes next if the economy were to go into a recession later this year?
It means that job growth slows and employment ticks up a little bit, but not in a kind of catastrophic way, that we're able to, see like job openings slow down and wage growth start to come down.
Despite the predicted threat of a recession around the corner, economists are hopeful we won't see long periods of high unemployment that we've seen in past recessions.
The abortion medication mifepristone is used all over the world. Europe first approved the drug some 35 years ago, well over a decade before it was approved here in the United States. And yet that drug is at risk of being pulled off the market here at home. My body, my choice. A Texas judge in April ruled mifepristone, the most commonly used abortion medication in America, was not approved correctly by the Food and Drug Administration more than 2 decades ago, and that it should be banned nationwide. That set off a court process now on the steps of the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, but not before it made a pit stop at the nation's highest court. 7 Supreme Court justices agreed to stay the decision, meaning the drug can still be used pending the appeals court decision, a relief to medication advocates like Kirsten Moore.
We don't take that for granted.
Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito were the only 2 to dissent, with Alito writing the drug makers, quote, are not entitled to a stay because they have not shown that they are likely to suffer irreparable harm in the interim.
I don't know how that's not irreparable harm. Your business basically ceases to exist.
While we have backup drugs that we can use, this is the most effective one. And we know that there will be a substantial harm if it's taken off the market.
American Medical Association President Dr. Jack Resnick says not only is this the main way physicians manage abortions, but miscarriages as well. But anti-abortion advocates say the drug was approved too quickly and is not safe for women.
When it comes to the safety, there's virtually nothing the FDA can do because of the way that this drug acts on a woman's body.
Mary Zock of the Family Research Council says the FDA should be making sure these drugs are safe and believes it hasn't done its due diligence.
They failed to do that in this case, and they should be held accountable for that.
But records show there were 4 years between the FDA application and approval.
Even when it first came up for approval, asked for more and more studies. We have just extensive data. We know that it's safe and effective.
Moore says the FDA is no stranger to these kinds of lawsuits, but up until this case, judges have deferred to the FDA's scientific expertise.
It's been really more around interpretation of the law. Congress gave you this authority, they didn't give you this authority. You didn't treat this patent correctly, so this generic is not approved. And that split between courts giving FDA deference, FDA also gives courts deference. So if a court orders FDA to do something, FDA typically does it.
Even further, there are concerns a decision in favor of opponents of abortion could change the way the courts handle any drug approval by the FDA.
That is going to have a chilling effect on our ability as drug makers, as drug sponsors, to continue to innovate, because it just throws everything up into the air.
You could imagine that pretty soon we'd start seeing lawsuits because somebody doesn't like contraceptives, or somebody doesn't like HIV drugs, or somebody doesn't like cancer drugs that happen to have been tested on stem cells.
We won't get a decision on this case right away, but no matter what the appeals court decides, this is likely not the last we're going to hear of this case. It is almost certainly going to make its way back to the Supreme Court. Alex Miller, Scripps News, New York.
The pandemic saw a boating boom with more people on the water than ever. But data shows owning a boat is also more expensive than ever. A new boat will cost you an average of $42,000 according to Bankrate, but you can expect to pay up to $75,000 or more depending on the type of boat you want. As boats get pricier, boat sharing is gaining popularity.
We saw over 70% growth in bookings year over year since the pandemic.
Jackie Baumgarten is the founder of Boat Setter, one of the companies offering boat sharing services. It's similar to Airbnb or Uber, but for boats. You rent boats directly from their owners online or through an app. Inexperienced boaters can also hire licensed captains. She says it's an affordable way to get out on the water, and the idea is taking off.
A lot of our owners who started out with one boat and just trying to offset the cost realize that this is an avenue for them to generate real revenue. And so we're seeing boat owners going out, buying a second, a third, a fourth, in some cases a fifth boat, and creating a true business around this.
Like any peer-to-peer sharing service, experts warn there are risks when it comes to boat sharing. Renters should ask questions before booking to make sure they're aware of all terms and conditions.
You might have trouble finding a well-known hot sauce for your next cooking endeavor. The reason behind the Sriracha shortage, next. could be seeing more work throughout Lee County on Three Oaks Parkway. Today, the county commissioners voted to hire Wright Construction Group to build the first section of the new extension. And it would go north from Alico Road up to Daniels. And Daniels, you see here, going up and down. So this is actually north pointing that way. And this will run right along I-75 before that curve that you see here will meet up with Fiddlesticks to go right into Daniels. Also, they'll be adding bicycle lanes and sidewalks. Construction is set to start next month, but don't expect this to be done until 2026. Also today, commissioners voted to accept state grant money to help people going through homelessness. More than $400,000 will be coming into Lee County for housing and other services. Leaders expect the funding, though, will help more than 600 people who need it. Happening in about 30 minutes, the Collier County Sheriff's Office will be holding a memorial service to honor officers who died in the line of duty. And the service will start at 6 at the Collier County South Regional Library in Naples. Tomorrow morning, the Lee County Sheriff's Office will host its memorial service for fallen deputies in downtown Fort Myers at the Calusa Sound Convention Center. The event will start at 10 a.m. The service will also get live streamed on the Sheriff's Office Facebook and YouTube pages.
You may have trouble finding a certain condiment to go along with your favorite spicy dish. Hot sauce company Weifang Foods says it's experiencing a new Sriracha shortage. It stems from drought conditions seen in Mexico last year. Low rainfall in parts of the country caused red jalapeno peppers to be in short supply, which made it harder to produce Sriracha sauce. The company was able to resume limited production in the fall, but now the company says it's dealing with an unprecedented inventory crunch due to last year's drought. Because of climate change, some hot sauce experts say these shortages may become more common, and companies will have to make changes to prevent shortages in the future.
I think the key for getting past the crunch on the supply side is diversifying where the chilies are grown. So relying too much on one concentrated area to do all your farming increases the risk that there's going to be some climate change related crop issues there.
Restaurants are scrambling to find wholesalers who can replenish their low reserves of the Sriracha sauce, and some retailers are rationing how many bottles shoppers can buy. Until then, experts say now may be a good time for spice lovers to experiment.
It's going to take a while. I think for consumers, it's a great opportunity to try something new, branch out, and experiment, because there's a lot of great new hot sauces out there.
There's no telling when the Sriracha shortage will end. If you have trouble finding the sauce in stores, the bottles are currently available as of now on Amazon.
Welcome back to the Fox 4 Weather Center. I'm Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. It's another hot day along the coastline, upper 80s, not quite in record territory this afternoon, but farther inland, we do have those mid 90s, but we are starting to see more of us cool down by developing showers and storms. Before we dive into that, let's take a live look outside from downtown Naples. And as we look here, you can actually see some of those showers there on the horizon. So we are indeed seeing some of those downpours that are currently helping to cool down some of our interior communities. Another perspective from the Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers. We are enjoying a mix of clouds and sun, dry conditions, though, right here again, closer to the coastline. We're at 88 degrees, but factor in that humidity, it's feeling more like 94. And honestly, that heat index will continue to be my biggest concern, not just today, but here going through really the next work week. Winds currently out of the west around 14 miles per hour, so a bit breezy at times. We will see some gusts at 6 o'clock around 20 miles per hour and around 18 miles per hour at 7 to 8 p.m. before we see those winds calm down overnight. With the heat and humidity, showers and storms are developing here, and this is that downpour that we were just looking at live from the Bayfront Inn in downtown Naples. Showers and storms, however, this evening are pretty isolated. Again, quiet along the coastline, along 75 and to the west, we're dry, but farther inland, right along Immokalee Road, heading down to Orange Tree, dealing with some downpours there that could be slowing you down. Likewise, if you are heading, say, to Wildcat Drive, and right there, that's Rookery Lane, seeing some areas of heavy rainfall heading from Lee County into northern Collier. Also, another little shower right here to the west of Alva over 78 and 80. Not seeing any lightning from that particular downpour, but that's also something we will be monitoring closely through the rest of this evening. Heading through the rest of this evening, the next couple of hours, isolated showers and storms in the mix as we head toward 9 p.m. After sunset, though, those showers and storms dying out. Tomorrow morning, with that humidity still in place, we will be starting off with some areas of patchy haze and fog. Otherwise, your Wednesday will feature another hot day. Westerly winds, though, picking up 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting to 20, and that will help to kick all of that energy farther inland. So it'll be another day, dry along the coast, but for Hendry and Glades is where the concentration of those isolated showers and storms will be developing. And then quickly peeking ahead to your Thursday, a similar setup, starting off nice and quietly. Best chance for those showers and storms developing in the afternoon. Again, generally staying in our inland communities. So overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies, some areas of patchy haze and fog for that morning commute. 74 degrees is where we'll start off the day. High temperatures around 90, but factor in that humidity. It's going to be feeling more like 93 to 95, so please keep that in mind. Best chance for showers and storms the next couple of days, staying inland. And then over the weekend, afternoon storms in the mix, both Saturday, Sunday for all of us.
A growing trend impacting seniors here in Southwest Florida, while a local organization believes more older people are experiencing homelessness.
When I stepped inside here at Caledonia High School in Michigan, the first thing that came to mind was, wow, schools did not look like this back in my day. And there are reasons the architectural layout is changing. One of the most important is school safety.
1999 was the start of a rude awakening, Columbine.
So that was, I think, the nation's wake-up call to violence in schools.
You know, this is my 27th year as an educator, and I remember all the way back to Columbine and the impact that that had on the psyche of public schools and safety.
Back then, schools weren't necessarily designed to stop a shooter.
It's really for functionality. So square footage is important. How many desks and chairs can you get in an area? Do you have the blackboard? And the biggest pieces we thought about for safety was, where is the exit in case of a fire?
The reality is different now. In the past 5 years, more than 150 shootings inside schools have resulted in either injuries or deaths, according to Ed Week.
It's imperative that we don't have the luxury of not getting this right, because the stakes are too high.
Dr. Diedrich Martin is the superintendent of Caledonia Community Schools in West Michigan.
Please excuse varsity softball.
His district is changing the way it builds schools.
If there's anything about this school that you could point out and say, I really want other places across the country to see this as a model, what would that be?
One, the secure entries. Two is having some secure filming area around the windows. Those are things. And really, it's the staff that are in the buildings that are going to make it work.
Upgrades in schools like curved hallways and corridors divided by fire doors and stronger locks. Other ideas impact classrooms themselves. Reshaped rooms create student safe zones to hide, not visible from the door. Even classroom door barricade systems that can be quickly installed. Tower Pinkster specializes in upgrading classrooms. They do about $400 million of K-12 construction a year.
If there's a receptionist here, they can see you on approach, they can see you in the vestibule, they can see you as you come in.
Matthew Slagle leads the firm's design for K-12 schools.
When you walk in a school that you guys are working on right now, I mean, what are some of the biggest differences that we see?
Well, certainly the entry point that you mentioned, what we call a secure vestibule, where once the bell rings, you can't get into the school anyway but that front entry door, and you're guided into the office.
Schools around the country are also considering new social spaces to support students' mental health, balancing safety with social development. As the school resource officer at Caledonia High School, Patrick Stewart sees firsthand the difference those types of spaces can make.
So as a school resource officer, yes, I am a law enforcement official first and foremost to keep them safe, but I'm also an informal counselor, a mentor, a teacher, an educator.
Stewart says balance is important, especially now.
Do you think it's safe to say that changes architecturally to schools across the country is going to be crucial in keeping our kids safe regardless of any other actions that are taken?
Absolutely, regardless of any other legislative action or what have you. We are in a time, or we're living in a time, where we have to really think about function, form, and security.
A sad reality, resigned to the fact that threats of school shootings are here to stay. Maybe the buildings themselves could help save lives. Jesse Cohen, Scripps News, Caledonia, Michigan.
Nearly 8 months after Hurricane Ian hit, so many people still struggling with rebuilding. Ahead, the last resort some homeowners are now focusing on to get their homes back.
Our dogs are getting new approval to be with us at more restaurants. The updated regulations that could be coming now for this too.
Southwest Florida. This is Fox 4 News at 5.
I'm Fox 4 investigative reporter Ryan Kruger in Cape Coral with a story about a growing trend that's happening here in Southwest Florida. More and more senior citizens and elderly residents say they can't afford a place to live. Today I spoke with a woman named Leslie Kerman. She lives in Cape Coral. Her original apartment she had been living in was damaged in Hurricane Ian. The landlord sold that unit to a developer. She moved in with a friend. Similar story. She says in the 7 months since Hurricane Ian struck Southwest Florida, she can't find a place on her fixed income.
There aren't a lot of places that seem to work very hard to help us. And Lord knows we need help. We need help.
There are no federal statistics on how many senior citizens are experiencing homelessness, but local advocacy organizations tell me they are noticing a major increase. You're going to hear about that in a full story on fox4now.com. In Cape Coral, Brian Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
St. Matthew's House is putting on food distribution events for this week to help anyone who could use it. Tomorrow in Immokalee, a new location, Limitless Church from 10 until noon. For Thursday, people can stop by Center Point Community Church in Naples, also 10 to noon. And on Friday, a distribution event for seniors. This is at the Golden Gate Senior Center, also in Naples, going from 10 a.m. until noon. Now, more than 7 months since Hurricane Ian made landfall here in Southwest Florida. Still, many of you are working to rebuild your homes and your other properties, and we see it all throughout the region. Homeowners in Port Charlotte also reached out to Stasi Olmos, saying their insurance companies are not paying out, and they feel that they're left with no option but to go to court.
This is a shell of our beautiful home last year after the hurricane.
A shell of wooden studs is what's left of Sherry and Jim McBride's dream retirement home in Port Charlotte, Florida.
We are in our 70s. He's a Vietnam veteran, and we're hurting right now.
Hurricane Ian separated the back wall from their home, ripped up the roof, and drenched everything inside.
Blew in with such a powerful suction that everything got wet. Anything that was in here was damaged. They had to totally gut it.
7 months later, the couple tells me they've only received enough money from their insurance company, American Integrity, to replace the roof and a temporary back wall. Even after hiring a public adjuster for help with their claim, they say they're still pleading with their insurance to help make their home livable.
They wanted to pay us pennies on the dollar. We're not rich. We could never rebuild our house like it was before.
I went through the McBride's documents and found the insurance adjuster estimated about $40,000 in damages. With their $5,500 deductible, they received a check for $35,000 in November.
It's going to be $220,000 that we need, and that's what the contractor said. And the cost of everything has been going up.
The McBrides have also been paying rent to live elsewhere for the last 7 months. I found their policy covers loss of use up to $27,000, but the company marked the loss value at $0. In contrast, the couple's public adjuster's estimate shows replacement cost at $224,000 with at least $36,000 for loss of use.
I can't stand being in here any longer.
The McBrides are now pursuing legal action.
What are we going to do? You know, we're going to have to take our claim to court because they leave us no choice.
The Insurance Information Institute estimates that carriers will pay $10 to $20 billion in Hurricane Ian-related litigation, in turn contributing to more financial burden and higher premiums for homeowners across the state.
You can't settle it for literally 20 cents on the dollar.
The couple's public adjuster tells me his company currently has a couple hundred Ian victims, with less than 10% of those claims closed.
The path that we have to take is completely contingent upon the decisions they make. If they were willing to come to the table and be reasonable, we could settle these.
I reached out to American Integrity asking about the McBride's claim, and a spokesperson told us they can't comment on a claim with attorney and/or public adjuster representation.
I want my home back. I want to get up and make coffee in my own coffee pot and bring groceries back here and cook it. Things I always enjoyed doing is all taken away from me, and how much longer?
According to the state's data, the McBride's claim is one of more than 100,000 Ian claims still open as of March.
Today, senators grilled executives from 2 of the 3 banks that recently failed. Pay came up, and whether executives are being rewarded more for short-term gains than making sure their company is stable. Silicon Valley Bank's former CEO got around $9.9 million in compensation last year, and he sold stock in the company a few weeks before it failed. The CEO of Signature Bank also sold stock in the company in the years before it failed. The head of the company that makes ChatGPT says we need government intervention to lessen the risks of AI systems. He testified before Congress today saying, "We get that people are anxious about how AI could change how we live and that the company is too." Tech industry leaders say they want rules to govern how AI is deployed in certain cases, but not having the technology itself regulated.
New protections are now in place for mothers to pump at work.
In the absence of paid family and medical leave, it's really important that we're making sure that people not only have the right to pump, but that they feel empowered to ask for that and to insist on it. And I think that legislation is a major driver of cultural shifts. And so we're going to see that happening where this is just normal.
Enforcement just started for the Pump Act. That law passed in December, giving nearly all workers the right to reasonable break time in a private space to pump at work for 1 year after the birth of their child. Before, salary workers weren't covered. What just went into effect is that women now have the right to bring a lawsuit against their employer if they don't get those accommodations.
I think a lot of times people hear accommodation and they're intimidated. And really the reality is that these can be really, really simple solutions to meet the needs of both the business and the employee. We've seen examples of just a curtain in a corner of a space. There's pop-up tents that you can get for like $25 on Amazon.
She says it is best to start talking with your manager about what you're going to need before you even have your baby. You can present solutions about a location where you'd like to pump at work, how you're going to manage your time, and where you're going to store your breast milk. The Office on Women's Health is one place you can find resources if you need help with that conversation. The Center for Work-Life Law and A Better Balance both have free legal helplines.
From the outside, dating can sound exciting. After all, it's a chance at new love and opportunity. But studies are showing that some people who are using dating apps, they're now finding themselves with more anxiety and depression.
I should do something on my phone and be like.
This is Kelsey Perkins.
Oh, I just hit my knee so hard.
And you can make an argument that the chaos you're seeing is symbolic of something larger than her.
There's going to be so many weird outtakes, I don't even want to think about it.
Something like her virtual dating life.
How would you say your experience over the last 5 years on dating apps has been?
Absolutely terrible. Nauseating. Awful.
You've probably heard of some of these apps: Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, Grindr, the list goes on. But numbers show people are using them far more than ever before. For example, this is the global revenue for dating apps since 2015, as it's grown from $1.6 billion to nearly $5 billion last year.
I like a variety, we got a professional one, we got a video of me snowboarding, which is like my whole life.
But as more people flock to these apps, more research shows they might have considerable negative side effects.
The studies are interesting on it, and it's not good for you psychologically.
Really?
Lots of depression.
You said that very definitively.
Yeah, it's not.
Steve Carlton is a graduate professor of social work at the University of Denver. And while he acknowledges not everything about these apps is bad, after all, about 1 in 5 relationships today start on them, he says there are some red flags.
If you're someone that sort of struggles with feelings of rejection and feeling left out and not being accepted, these apps can only make those narratives in your head worse, right? Because there is a tremendous amount of rejection and people ghosting you and just not responding.
According to a study published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, there's a link between using dating apps and feelings of loneliness, dissatisfaction with life, and feeling excluded from the world. The research points out that it's a paradox, as people have more ways to connect than ever before, yet many of those connections can feel empty, fleeting, and insecure.
Yeah, it gives me anxiety. There's just it's so much work to date these days. Very superficial conversations, hey, how are you? How's your week? Good. What do you do? And it's just such a waste of time.
Now, this isn't the case for everyone. Carlton says some people can get an ego boost from a match.
I have 37 that I can accept or not accept, or I can do messages.
For Kelsey, the apps offer a way to feel desirable and connect with people since she's busy in law school. But those positive emotions can coexist with the negative ones.
I could go on a date right now from a dating app if I wanted. It's just the outcome that never is good. It's just never really worked because you don't really talk to them for a long amount of time. It's just hey, want to get a drink? And then they're always usually weird.
It can be both a blessing and a curse. But such is life for those on this rocky road to love. Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Denver.
We don't have many World War II veterans still with us. A special celebration for one Southwest Florida veteran over the weekend. On Friday, the Pine Island VFW Post honored Wilbur Ripel on his birthday. His 103rd birthday, born in 1920, even had a parade in his honor from the Lee County Sheriff's Office, the Pine Island Fire Department, and many other groups. Also, a welcome reunion here, all thanks to 2 local groups, all for cute, as they might say in the Midwest. The Clinic for the Rehabilitation of Wildlife Crow on Sanibel helped this little hawk after it fell from its nest. They said the nestling was dehydrated, took some cuts, but after some care, the tiny bird for a few days was all ready to get reunited with its parent and its siblings with the help of the Joshua tree. They used a bucket truck to place the hawk back in its nest.
Center on Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. The heat and humidity, big players today, but also, as we expected, isolated showers and storms developing in some of our inland communities, and some of these downpours could impact that evening drive. Let's start with a live look, though, at what is nice and dry and quiet here from downtown Fort Myers. The Luminary Hotel, it's picture perfect looking northward across the Caloosahatchee River. Little bit of a chop out there, though. We do have some gusty winds out of the west around 15 miles per hour. But those westerly winds are crucial. They're helping to push any of that thunderstorm energy to the east of I-75. That means commutes along 75 and 41 and points off toward the coast should be just fine for this evening. But we continue to monitor some bigger downpours right here for parts of southern Lee County, heading down into parts of northern Collier. So right there's Immokalee, and basically in between Immokalee and Miramar Lakes, tracking that pretty healthy downpour just to the north of Immokalee Road near Orange Tree, dealing with some of that heavy rain. Also, these nearly stationary storms right over Alva, stretching up toward Babcock Ranch. So we are monitoring these downpours closely, and a couple of lightning strikes cannot be ruled out. Also looking at another shower right now, nearly stationary over Fort Myers shores. So again, at this point, because they are nearly stationary, we'll simply have to let them rain themselves out, but they will certainly be diminishing in intensity after sunset. And right here after sunset, notice the best probability for an isolated rain shower will stay inland. Otherwise, overnight tonight, quiet conditions are expected. With that moisture in play for tomorrow morning, we will have some areas of patchy haze and fog. Heads up there for that Wednesday morning commute. Otherwise, Wednesday afternoon, once again, those winds picking up out of the west, 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting to 20. That will help to force that energy to produce those thunderstorms farther inland. So the coastline will stay dry. If you have beach plans, they're going to stay dry. It'll be a bit choppy for some of our inland waterways if you're out on the water, but really for Glades and Hendry counties, that's where we have the best probability of seeing some of those isolated downpours. And same story as we look ahead to your Thursday. Quiet conditions to kick off the day, but heading into the afternoon, we will yet again be tracking those developing downpours, especially for our inland communities. Overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies, some areas of patchy haze and fog. We'll start off the day around 74 degrees in Fort Myers as well as Cape Coral. Upper 60s, lower 70s expected farther inland. Arcadia will start off the day around 69 degrees. Heading into the afternoon, it's going to be another hot one. We'll hit a high around 90, but factor in that humidity. It's going to be feeling more like 93 to 95 degrees. Also, it will be breezy at times. Westerly winds sustained around 15 with gusts up to 20. Best chance for those showers and storms tomorrow, staying to the east of 75. Same story into your Thursday. Then over the weekend, scattered afternoon storms in the mix for all of us here across Southwest Florida. High temperatures expected Saturday, Sunday around 92.
You may start seeing more dogs at restaurants. The FDA recently gave its stamp of approval that dogs can be in outdoor seating spaces while their owners are dining. Nearly half of states already have legislation that permits this, but guidance from the FDA could help more build regulations around it.
I think a lot of this comes back from the days when we had service animals and for the ADA requirements to allow service animals in. I think people saw dogs can eat in restaurants and it's pretty safe as long as certain things are adhered to.
He says the update may also be a result of how pet ownership changed during the pandemic. Not only did it spike, but research shows it shifted our views on what owning a pet means.
They're part of the family today, right? And so we like going out with our dogs. And so that just they came to understand that we've got to give some kind of guidance.
The new FDA approval doesn't mean all restaurants with outdoor seating are required to allow dogs, but it does set certain standards. For example, restaurants that do accept dogs cannot discriminate based on breed. They also have to take into account diners who don't want to be around dogs.
They have to make sure they have an area that's segregated specifically for pets, and so it's designated, that they're paying extra attention to cleaning and sanitation, that the animals are under the control of the pet owners.
Service dogs are still the exception. Restaurants generally have to allow them inside.
I'm here in Flint, Michigan, where homes like this one continue to look like unrepaired construction zones, 9 years after toxic amounts of lead began flowing through the city's underground drinking water pipes. Now, nearly a decade later, residents are still waiting for help. Adia McCullough and her 7-year-old son Robbie are still dealing with the aftermath of a crisis in Flint that exposed its 100,000 residents to toxic levels of lead in the drinking water. Robbie has brushed his teeth with bottled water his entire life. That's because the city has still not fulfilled its promise to inspect the water pipes coming into their home for lead.
They came and spray painted the pipeline, and they put little flags, and then they left and they never did the work.
A Scripps News investigation discovered nearly a decade after the Flint water crisis, efforts to remove dangerous pipes have slowed to a crawl, and thousands of residents may still need their water pipes inspected, like Adia. How does that feel?
Feels like you don't matter. Feels like the world just keeps going on, and you keep going on. But like you don't matter. Like, everyone here is not important enough. And it feels awful.
The problem started 9 years ago in 2014, when officials switched the source of the city's water in a cost-cutting move to the highly polluted Flint River. Its corrosive water caused underground pipes to begin leaching toxic amounts of lead into Flint's drinking water. As part of a settlement with Flint residents, the city was required to find and replace every lead water line. The court-ordered deadline for the entire project was January of 2020, more than 3 years ago. Our Scripps News analysis found that the pace of inspections has dropped more than 95% from a peak in 2018.
What is taking so long? We will not rush through this process just to say that we got it done.
Under Mayor Sheldon Neely's watch, the city of Flint has missed 3 court deadlines to finish the job. He blamed the first 2 on delays caused by the previous mayor and the pandemic, which initially did slow down work for much of the nation. We pressed him on the most recent miss.
And then there was another deadline after the pandemic started, and that was in September of 2022.
Deadlines were set and deadlines were missed. Some could be contributed to me and some could be contributed to other pieces, right?
We discovered the city does not know where its own contractors have carried out much of the work.
Does the city know where work has been done?
In many cases, we're evaluating that today.
So what's the number overall that needs to still be completed?
Well, those numbers are elusive to say. I don't want to be nailed down to actually giving a particular number.
How do you go down the punch list of homes that you have to complete or homes that you have to visit if right here, as you and I are talking, you don't seem to know how many more there are to go?
You want me to give you a number?
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000.
I give you percentages. More than 90% of this process has been completed.
But Scripps News discovered more than 90% complete is also exactly where the city said it stood in this press release from August of 2020, nearly 3 years ago.
A project that was very easy to begin is more challenging to complete.
We shared 7 different stories of Flint residents with the mayor, including Adia McCullough, who all told us that they tried to get city contractors out to their homes, but are still waiting 9 years later. The mayor had trouble believing that.
If they're calling here, we have health navigators going door to door. The city hall is open every day. Our phone lines are active and operational.
But the day we sat down with the mayor, here's what happened when we called the city's Get the Let Out number for residents.
The user's mailbox is not available at this time. Thank you. Goodbye.
Can you put your head up just a little bit, buddy? There we go. Thank you.
Days later, the city told us it put a work order in for Adia's home.
Something that shouldn't have happened should have been fixed immediately. And we shouldn't still be here years later trying to prove that it's not fixed.
Now, it does appear as if our visit to Flint did inspire some action, with a city spokesperson telling us that they're now working on a permanent fix for that phone outage. It's something that we discovered that residents have been complaining in emails to the city about for close to a year.
A city spokesperson also telling us right before we went to air that the city has now just authorized an additional 275 lead service line replacements, work that they're going to get going on as soon as they can. Mark Greenblatt, Scripps News in Washington.
Ahead on Fox 4 News at 6, the opening statements as well as testimony from the mother of one of the two people who died in 1990 in Cape Coral on this murder trial, live from the courtroom with the very latest.
And it's been over a week since Title 42 ended impacting the southern border. Now Florida is sending in to help. Why Governor
Now at 6, a trial 33 years in the making. Joseph Zeiler faces prosecutors in the killings of an 11-year-old girl, Robin Cornell, and her babysitter, Lisa Story.
Seeing these little bags that had rice in them, and I picked it up because of the rice and not because of the paper.
That paper and the message on it now has a neighborhood on edge and the law involved.
I don't want a handout. I just want to be able to get into an apartment.
Struggling to find a home after Ian, and more people who are in need are seniors.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
Well, opening statements are done and the first witnesses take the stand in a double murder cold case trial 3 decades in the making. Thank you for watching Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Nadine Yanis.
I'm Chris Earl. 33 years after an 11-year-old girl and her mother's friend serving as a babysitter that night were raped and killed in the Cape Coral home in 1990. Now the trial is underway.
Yeah, and that first witness to take the stand was the mother who had to bury her 11-year-old daughter in 1990, facing that accused killer in court.
And that little girl, Robin Cornell, as well as a 32-year-old friend, Lisa Story, both died that night. Joseph Zeiler, now 61, is facing murder charges in their killings. He could get the death penalty if convicted. Fox 4's Brianna Brownlee is live inside the Lee County Courthouse. As Bree, we heard the details this woman had to relive from what happened back in 1990.
Yes, today in court, we learned more about that morning when Jan Cornell came home to find her 11-year-old daughter, Robin Cornell, and her friend, 32-year-old Lisa Story, dead inside her home. Jan did say the last thing she told her daughter was, "Good night, I love you, and I'm off to go see my boyfriend."
46?
Yes.
50?
Yes.
Breaking down while seeing the photos from the Cape Coral crime scene where her 11-year-old daughter, Robin Cornell, and 32-year-old friend, Lisa Story, were both killed.
What did you notice when you started CPR?
That she had a lot of congestion, like she had really been crying.
Jan Cornell remembers the terrible moment when she walked into her home in Southwest Cape Coral around 4 o'clock that morning on May 9th, 1990.
Her head was farther in there. Her hands were up.
Cornell testified, says she found her daughter Robin lifeless on the floor at the foot of their bed, face down with a pillow propping her body up. The court showed extremely graphic images of the crime scene. We are withholding showing those in this report.
The semen that is found on the bedsheet where Robin was sleeping when she was murdered matches the defendant to a frequency at over 1 in 700 billion. And it's actually even better than that, but FDLE stops at 700 billion.
The state is pinning its case on the defendant, now 61-year-old Joseph Zeiler, that his DNA matches what investigators found on bedding in the girl's body. Zeiler sitting only a feet away from the girl's mother as she cried, thinking about the morning decades ago. He just looked at the witness stand and refused to look at the crime scene photos.
I'm going to leave you with a word. This is not something that the state has to prove. It's not an element of the offense, but nevertheless, it's still something that pops up in these types of cases. That word is motive. Mr. Zeiler had no motive to commit this crime.
Zeiler's defense is that someone who knew the family committed the crimes. In court, the defense points to framed family photos being shifted around a room, also a picture of the girl's head being torn off her body in the photo.
This sounds like somebody was really angry at you.
Now, the way the state is linking Zeiler to Lisa's story is by a hair that they found on her body. Like always, Fox 4 will keep you updated with the latest. Live from the Lee County Courthouse, Brianna Brownlee, Fox 4.
Definitely an incredible first day, Bree. Thank you. Also, a former Lee County deputy will now be on the other side of the jail cell as Nico Irizarry was sentenced to 1 year in prison for planting drugs at a traffic stop. Irizarry, along with 2 other men, Charles Custodio and Scott Snyder, were arrested in February of 2022. Prosecutors say they were involved in a revenge plot and planted drugs in a Cape Coral's man's car. According to the police report, text messages showed another person texted Irizarry asking him to arrest a person that he hated as revenge. A judge then sentenced Irizarry to now 364 days in jail and 3 years probation.
We're also learning more tonight about Collier County detectives as they said flyers were scattered across the neighborhood in Naples from a group that calls themselves the Aryan Freedom Network. You might recall seeing on Fox 4 the recently signed state law which makes it a felony to harass or intimidate a person for religion or ethnicity. Tonight, Fox 4's Colton Chavez shows us why law experts do not think the people responsible for this could end up facing any legal action.
Brought my 2 huskies out for a walk and
an early Sunday morning stroll for Naples' Ryan Coussart took what Ryan calls a bizarre turn when he says he found suspicious bags placed randomly down his street.
But as we walked around the corner, we seen these little bags that had rice in them. And I picked it up because of the rice and not because of the paper that was in it.
Ryan says that paper, which you see here with the text that reads, "It's okay to be white," had Ryan concerned enough to call the Collier County Sheriff's Office.
I just found it as a cowardly move just to leave it in somebody's driveway.
A move that had some of Ryan's neighbors wondering if the act would fall under the umbrella of Governor Ron DeSantis' newly signed state law, which says placing hateful messaging on someone's property can now be punishable as a felony charge.
So I'm going to use my safety vest as an example. Now imagine that this is some sort of document that harasses somebody based on their religion or ethnicity. The state law says if I were to place it on somebody's property like that, it can be considered felony trespassing. But when I spoke to one law expert, Dr. Pamela C., she says for this specific incident,
what the words actually say, it's okay to be white. What is the meaning of that? I don't see that there is a specific meaning to it.
Dr. C., who is a licensed attorney and professor at Florida Gulf Coast University, says this means as far as a punishment moving forward,
the very specific nature of the words, it might be very difficult to prosecute either under this law or any other. As long as there is not an accompanying act or threat, then I think this is probably going to pass muster for a while.
In the report from Collier County Sheriff's Office, it says at least 70 of these flyers were collected from this street and the surrounding area. Deputies say due to the wide-scale handout, it does not seem to be targeting specific people. While detectives say it is an ongoing investigation, neighbors like Ryan hope it doesn't happen so close to home ever again.
I've been in this neighborhood for 6 weeks, every day, every morning. And the camaraderie that I get from the neighbors and people that just speak and genuinely say hi to you, I would not like to think that it was one of my neighbors.
Reporting in Naples, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Governor DeSantis had just signed that bill into law during his trip to Israel a couple of weeks ago.
Well, also in Naples and new this hour, police arrest 2 men wanted in a road rage shooting that happened at the intersection of Myrtle Terrace and 41 North. Naples PD says this all started after an argument, police say, with a male driver punching another female driver in the nose and then intentionally crashing his pickup truck into her Mercedes. But it escalated from there, police say. Officers say that's when a passenger in that Mercedes then grabbed a gun and fired 2 shots at the truck. So tonight, Hakia Watson, the man police say fired that gun, is charged with shooting at an occupied vehicle. And officers say Amaziah Nelson was driving the pickup truck. Well, he's now charged with assault with a deadly weapon and battery. Well, in Fort Myers, police are also piecing together what happened after officers responded to a call and found someone stabbed several times. That call came in early Monday morning on Marsh Avenue. Police say 2 people were taken to the hospital. Fort Myers police believes that both of these people knew each other, but so far, no one has been arrested. And in Northport, this man, 60-year-old Stephen Hudek, is in jail without bond tonight after Northport police say he victimized a child a number of times, using drugs on that child to keep them incapacitated. This man now faces a number of charges, including sexual battery with a weapon. Officers say Hudek tried to fight them when they showed up. That could explain his mugshot here before they booked him into the Sarasota County Jail.
Some major road work will be going on throughout Charlotte County all throughout the week for drivers in US 41, all throughout the county, going between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So expect some delays, tighter traffic. Crews are doing traffic signal work on 41. Deputies will also be out there to guide along the way. You see Punta Gorda here, but this is going to be countywide and not just traffic lights. The county says Hurricane Ian destroyed 95% of its street signs, and there's still close to 8,000 of them that they must fix. Also, some of the updates on the wildfires have been closely watching. We'll start off in Collier County, where the Sandy Fire has been burning for more than 2 weeks. But some good news, the National Park Service is lifting the evacuation plan for people who live nearby. They do note it's 52% contained. Now Collier County will take control of the operation from here on out. And also this from yesterday, 24 hours ago, we were closely watching the 120-acre Orange Hammock wildfire during the Fox 4 News at 6. But the Florida Forest Service says fire crews contained it by 9 last night. As you can see here from the map, this was just north and east of I-75 in Northport between the Kings Highway and Toledo Blade exits. The Florida Forest Service confirming lightning caused that. And then we also had isolated showers this afternoon, right as we hit rainy season.
Yeah, we just talked about it. Lightning can spark these wildfires. Let's go ahead and bring in Fox 4 Katie Walls, tracking the transition from our dry to rainy season for you this afternoon. Hey, Katie.
One thing we are talking about, lightning, and I just got off the phone with the Florida Forest Service, interestingly enough. So this is exactly where that fire was burning this time yesterday. We're seeing more lightning strikes. They believe that the storm that caused yesterday's fire actually sparked over the weekend. They said if you ever see a lightning strike, keep a close eye on it for up to 3 days. It can actually burn the brush underneath the lament and then erupt, and that was the case yesterday. So again, we're monitoring this big downpour right here for parts of Northport, and then also we are looking at these showers and storms right here for some of our interior communities, but as of right now, they are fairly isolated in nature. This particular downpour right now over the Alva area, right along 78 into 80, right along Parkinson Road as well as Alva, stretching back toward LaBelle. And also we have this other little shower right over Buckingham that continues to dwindle down. Coming up, we'll talk more about a better rain chance on the way later on this week. Basically, as Nadine said, we are transitioning into that rainy season. Each and every day you want to have that rain gear close, but where we see these storms develop, that's what will change daily. I'll break that down for you coming up.
Thank you, Katie. And now here's why responders have to be ready for anything. Firefighters in Lee County came out to help rescue a woman stuck in a culvert. Take a look at these pictures that Iona McGregor Fire District posted. It took only 5 minutes to safely get her out of there, and she was found about 50 feet into the pipe. Iona McGregor Fire District said that they had a crane lift a piece of concrete to the side to bring her out, but they did take her to the hospital to get checked out. Still no word on how this person ended up inside the culvert pipe. And also check out some of these pictures in the Florida Wildlife Commission and posted what you see here on your right are cages from a bird trap that poachers had set up. FWC says it set up surveillance to also find a person with a total of 10 traps. These traps will now be evidence in the crime against the suspect. And the pictures on the left give you an idea of what bird poachers are after, trying to catch and sell native songbirds and brightly colored wild birds.
Well, coming up here on Fox 4 News at 6, Governor DeSantis says he's now sending help from Florida to the U.S. border now that Title 42 has expired. We will break down what is in his plan and why he believes sending Florida help will actually do something.
Showers and storms are isolated for now, but we will be seeing a better chance for wet weather later on this week. We'll dive deeper into that timeline coming up.
Governor Ron DeSantis picked up a pair of endorsements today should he decide to run for president.
Which can happen any day now, but these endorsements came from Florida Senate President and Southwest Florida Representative Kathleen Passidomo and also State Speaker of the House Paul Renner. Now, these endorsements do come as the governor was also in Lighthouse Point, that's just north of Pompano Beach this morning, signing several bills to crack down on human trafficking, including one that allows victims to sue in civil court.
The bills also require law enforcement to go through training to help with recognizing when human trafficking is taking place. Tonight, we also have new information that Governor DeSantis is sending help from Florida to Texas to try to help secure the U.S.-Mexico border ever since Title 42 expired.
So our Fox 4's Elise Chingary joins us live in studio. And Elise, it looks like the governor is now sending over 1,100 different assets and resources to the southern border.
Exactly. So those resources are coming right here from our state of Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis says the impacts of what he calls Biden's border crisis are felt by many communities across the nation, including right here in our state. And when it comes to resources, we're talking more than 100 Florida Highway Patrol troopers that will be sent over to the southern border in Texas, as well as 200 law enforcement officers and teams of 40, 800 Florida National Guard soldiers, 20 Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission officers, also radio technicians and mechanics. So this all comes as Title 42 has expired and Border Patrol agents, well, they're overwhelmed with an influx of migrants.
A lot of these sanctuary jurisdictions, they say they want open borders, they say that nobody's illegal, and yet when these people, the illegal aliens, are brought to their jurisdictions, they scream bloody murder.
And that's not all. Governor DeSantis is also sending available fixed-wing aircrafts with monitoring equipment, mobile command vehicles, 17 drones, and 10 vessels, including airboats. Now, the Division of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie says our state is prepared to assist however needed and stands with Texas as they work to repel illegal aliens at the border. Now, through the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, states can provide resources, including personnel, to other states to assist in times of emergency. Resources stand ready to deploy within the next 24 hours. In studio, Elise Chingari, Fox 4.
While the political world awaits a decision from DeSantis on 2024, allies of Mike Pence are also getting set for an announcement from the former vice president, and that would bring Pence closer to announcing a formal presidential bid for the Republican nomination next year. And it will also put his fractured relationship with former President Donald Trump back in focus, as Pence was the one who certified the results of the 2020 presidential election. Pence says he expects a decision to announce one before the end of June.
Well, today we found out Congress is struggling to regulate artificial intelligence, let alone understand it. A Senate subcommittee held a hearing with the head of the company behind ChatGPT. Madeline Rivera is in D.C. with how ChatGPT says that it may be the wave of the future, but the company has to prove your security is not at stake here first.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is making an urgent plea to Congress, siding with their calls to regulate artificial intelligence.
My worst fears are that we, the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world.
Altman is the head of the company behind ChatGPT, transformative artificial intelligence software able to generate human-like responses. He agrees with critics that we still don't know how risky the growing technology may be, and says regulation by an American or global agency might be needed.
I would require independent audits, so not just from the company or the agency, but experts who can say the model is or isn't in compliance with these stated safety thresholds.
Lawmakers on both sides are worried about the potential for widespread job losses and AI's ability to mislead people, especially as the campaign season heats up.
With an election upon us, with primary elections upon us, that we're going to have all kinds of misinformation.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has met with tech leaders, including Elon Musk, to discuss safeguards. But the U.S. has lagged behind its allies and adversaries in regulating and investing in AI, raising the question of whether it's too late to rein in the technology.
Always follow the money, guys, right? This is projected AI to be a $17 trillion business by 2030. There's a lot of money to be made.
Congress holds another hearing on AI on Wednesday, this time examining the technology's effect on the music industry. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
And now take a look at this from a youth baseball game in Jacksonville over the weekend. A 7-year-old catcher in the middle of a dust devil.
Yeah, our producer purposely said don't watch this video, so we're going to watch it with you on air. If you take a look, sand and debris spiraled around Bauer Zoya for a few seconds. And listen to this. That is a 17-year-old umpire who jumped in to rescue that little one. Now, Bauer said, of course, even though it's just a few seconds, to him it felt like 10 minutes.
As a former youth baseball coach, usually all the wind comes from the parents complaining about playing time or balls and strikes. But that did not stop him from playing. His dad poured water on him to get the dirt out of his eyes. Catchers are tough. Went back into the game.
Sweet little guy.
Catchers are tough.
You know, Chris, your first question was like, where did this happen? I was so surprised to hear that it happened in Florida. I personally am a native Floridian, and I've never seen a dust devil like that pick up in my
We had
experience.
a really great dust devil last week, a couple weeks ago.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
So we also have to remember that these aren't caused from clouds, right?
Right.
They're caused by these big temperature differences when you have very hot ground, like the field right there, gets that swirl going and away it goes.
Oof.
But that was a strong one.
I've never seen one
that
in
was
person.
a strong one.
Incredible.
Not
Oof.
one on that level. Exactly right. Normally we don't see that kind of situation. Thankfully, not expecting anything tornadic or that kind of level as we head into this afternoon. We do have a couple of downpours in the mix. They are isolated, though, and primarily affecting our inland communities. First, though, let's take a live look outside from across the Caloosahatchee River. Luminary Hotel showing off some fair weather cumulus and some upper level cirrus clouds, but otherwise conditions for the most part this evening will be dry for most of us. That said, there are a couple of storms out here that I do want to point out. So first, we have this one to the east of I-75. So right here, just to the east now at Fort Myers Shores. Fort Myers Shores, you just got done with that little shower. Now it's over Buckingham. But we also have this one here over Alva. It continues to rain itself out. No longer seeing the heavy rainfall. But right here along Parkinson Road over the Alva area, Buckingham, again, that shower continuing to dwindle down. And this is where the orange hammock fire was yesterday. Once again, another strong thunderstorm, nearly stationary, but also producing that lightning. And as we just talked about, both the Sandy fire in southern Collier County, this fire as well, both caused by lightning. So it is that time of year that we just have to stay extremely vigilant. And again, remember that those fires can be sparked and can linger for a couple of days before they fully flare up. As for those temperatures today, 92 degrees in Fort Myers, 88 for Naples, Punta Gorda hitting that high of 90 degrees. So for today, records not in jeopardy across Southwest Florida. Luminary Hotel right now showing off that nice quiet sky mix of clouds and sun. We're 88 degrees, but look at that humidity. It doesn't look too shabby here, but that dew point, it is air that you can wear in the lower 70s, causing it to feel more like 94 degrees. So unsurprisingly, that heat and humidity helping to fuel those showers and storms. Farther inland for this evening, that's where we could see a couple of those downpours. Otherwise, after sunset, everything loses its energy. For tomorrow morning around 7 a.m., we'll start things off with some areas of patchy haze and fog. Otherwise, your morning drive will be a quiet one. And heading into the afternoon, like today, those westerly winds picking up, gusting 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts to 20. That will help to kick any energy for showers and storms farther inland. So Glades and Hendry counties, that's where we will be seeing most of the concentration of the few downpours that do develop. That's where they're going to be for tomorrow. But along the coastline, we will stay on the dry side. Overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies with some areas of patchy haze and fog developing. A muggy start around 74 degrees across Lee County, 71 for Punta Gorda, Palmdale, Moorhaven, Clewiston starting off the day around 69 degrees. As for tomorrow afternoon, we'll push up toward 90, but you factor in that humidity, and like today, it's going to be feeling more like 93 to 95 degrees. Again, best chance for those showers and storms to the east of I-75. So along the coastline, we will stay quiet. Same story heading into your Thursday. It looks like the best chance for those storms will stay inland. Then over the weekend, more of us will start to track those scattered storms developing as we are starting to head into more of a consistent rainy season pattern.
Thank you, Katie. Still ahead, the end of Title 42 means much more than what's across the U.S.-Mexico border. It also impacts what's across the ocean as well.
Fox 4 has continually been checking in with our federal agents and the U.S. Coast Guard on the effects of Title 42's expiration on our maritime borders, especially right here in Florida.
And to this point, Customs and Border Protection say there have been a few migrant encounters since, including one in Miami this morning.
So Kate Husey from our Scripps station WPTV in West Palm Beach to show us what we will see across our South Florida coast, and how they say it is still unpredictable.
The beaches of the Florida Keys.
People trying to come here, though.
Unusually quiet for Chief Border Patrol Agent Adam Hoffner.
We did see a decrease or slowdown in activity during the last 2 months.
He took our crew down to Marathon for an in-depth look at illegal immigration. For most of the week, we saw nothing until the very day Title 42 expired. Not one, but 3 migrant boats hitting the Florida Keys within a couple of hours.
When it rains, it pours.
Since then, U.S. Border Patrol agents responding to 2 migrant encounters off our coast. One boat with 8 Cuban migrants in the Florida Keys Saturday, and Monday morning, a suspected smuggling event with 4 Chinese migrants near Miami.
It looks like they're bringing another one in now.
The Coast Guard intercepting 3 boats off Florida's coast in the last week, repatriating a total of 68 migrants, 50 back to Cuba, and 18 back to the Bahamas. A representative I spoke with unable to tell me if that's part of an influx or if it has to do with Title 42 at all.
That can also correlate to weather conditions, the sea state, and things of that nature.
Air Marine Agent John Apollony telling me it's not uncommon to see migrant encounters come in waves.
They may have these vessels staged, and when the conditions are right, a lot of them will launch at the same time.
Still, the Coast Guard and CBP agents now maintaining a constant presence from air, land, and sea, telling me just because there hasn't been a wave of migrants yet doesn't mean there won't be.
For us, it's key to be aware of those and to adjust accordingly and be strategic with our partners and be prepared.
And that was Kate Husey reporting. We also have new information tonight regarding the death of a teenager from Honduras who died in Florida while in the care of federal officials. The medical examiner now says it appears that 17-year-old died of a seizure while staying at shelter in Safety Harbor. The boy's mother coming forward did saying that her son had been diagnosed with epilepsy.
There are a ton of senior citizens here who had a similar situation to you, that they're homeless. Where do they go?
Tonight, a deeper look at a growing problem, especially since Hurricane Ian hit. Seniors with nowhere to truly call home.
And we got a dinner debate for you tonight. Could this class staple soon disappear? Yeah, school lunch might soon be without chocolate milk. Stick around for this one.
from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
Thank you so much for keeping it here on this Tuesday. For Fox 4 News at 6, I am Chris Earl.
And I'm Nadine Yanis. There is a growing trend here in Southwest Florida that really will break your heart. More and more of our older population experiencing homelessness for the first time.
Experts in the field tell us they've never seen anything like it, but it's the personal stories of the people impacted that show just how pronounced the problem is.
So Fox 4 investigates. Ryan Kruger joining us live now here in studio with their stories. And Ryan, any statistics are there about just how bad this problem is right here?
Yeah, so the federal government says that Florida has the third highest homeless population in the country, about 27,000 people. But the federal government does not keep statistics on how many of them are senior citizens. But some local organizations are doing local counts, and what they have been finding so far is shocking.
I don't want a handout. I just want to be able to get into an apartment.
On this hot morning in May, Leslie Kerman can only speak to us while in the comforts of an air-conditioned car. When Hurricane Ian slammed into Southwest Florida, Kerman's apartment was damaged. The landlord sold the unit. She says she hasn't been able to find an affordable place on her fixed income. Right now, she's staying on a friend's couch. But during a recent stay in the hospital, she says the nurses all told similar stories.
So many of them came back to me and said, I go up and down the aisle, the rooms. There are a ton of senior citizens here who had a similar situation to you, that they're homeless. Where do they go?
No one can say for sure how bad the problem is for seniors experiencing homelessness, but they all agree the numbers are going up. Local advocacy organizations tell me the problem is twofold. One is inflation. The second was damage from Hurricane Ian, which has shrunk the market.
More first-time homelessness and more elder homelessness.
Stephen Bruder is the CEO of St. Matthew's House, which operates 2 shelters in Collier County. Every year, a team of volunteers heads out to count all of the homeless in the county. Of the 703 people found, more than a fourth of them were seniors.
People want to move on if they could find affordable rents, and it's hard.
Back in Cape Coral, Leslie tells me she's running out of options and time before she'll be forced out into the street.
There aren't a lot of places that seem to work very hard to help us. And Lord knows we need help. We need help.
And sadly, everyone admits the numbers that we do have on homelessness here locally likely aren't accurate. Instead, experts in the field expect the number is actually 2, maybe even 3 times worse than what has been reported. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
Ryan, thank you for shining a light on that subject. There will also be more help coming to Lee County on this issue as county commissioners voted to accept state grant money to help people who are experiencing homelessness. More than $400,000 will be coming into Lee County for housing and other services. Leaders expect the funding will help more than 600 people who need it.
And one local nonprofit watching out for our homeless population is the St. Matthew's House in Collier County, teaming up with the Harry Chapin and Midwest Food Banks for another food distribution to help families in need tomorrow. So this will start tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Limitless Church on 11th Street. The distribution lasts until noon, and then on Thursday you can pick up food at the Centerpoint Community Church on Golden Gate Parkway. Both of these distributions happening in Naples.
Yeah, Immokalee is just a city that we're looking to continue to serve. We know the need is great there. And when we found the opportunity to continue to serve there, we definitely wanted to expand on that. So in this pop-up location that we're just kind of giving it, just a trial to see if it works.
So you can find a complete list of distribution times for the rest of the week where you live on fox4now.com.
In a matter of hours, the water will be back on for people in some parts of St. James City. This is for those living south of Papaya Street. The water shutoff runs all the way to the south end of Pine Island. And here's drone video of that exact area from our Sky Fox. Again, it's expected to be back on by midnight, but even when the water comes back on, be ready to boil any water tomorrow morning for drinking, cooking, brushing teeth. The Pine Island Water Association says it will let people who live in this part of Pine Island know when the boil order gets lifted.
Well, painting with a purpose. This morning, some senior citizens in Lehigh Acres got the paintbrushes out for an amazing cause.
Fox 4 morning anchor Amy Wegman was at the Lehigh Acres Senior Center this morning showing us how this art project is going to help pay some bills.
Yeah, if you're wondering how a paintbrush and a rain barrel can help to raise money for local seniors and their water bills, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening. So we are at Lehigh Senior Center, and this is a contest, if you will. If you look around, you can see people working to paint beautiful designs on these rain barrels. They will be auctioned off, and winners will be chosen. So the 3 winners with the best paintings will get Visa gift cards, but the money raised through the online auction, that's going to help seniors pay their utility bills. It's a partnership with the Lehigh Community Center. And I just think this is such a fun way to raise awareness that there are seniors who need help with that here in Southwest Florida, but also conserve water. I asked FGUA spokeswoman Donna Lazat what the rain barrels are for, and here's what she had to say.
Well, you know, what you do is you could put them under your spout, the gutter spout on your home, and you collect the rainwater, and your vegetable gardens will love the water because there's no chemicals in that. Save on your water bill because the rainwater is free, so you're helping yourself and you're helping save the planet.
And helping seniors to pay their bills.
Yes, exactly.
All right, and it's not too late to get in on this either. If you think that you want to paint one of these barrels to help raise money to help pay utility bills for seniors here in Lehigh Acres, you can pick one up. You just have to contact FGUA. And also, I've got the information if you're a senior and you feel like you need help paying your utility bill or need help with other financial assistance, I've got the information to Lehigh Community Services when you click on this story at fox4now.com. For now, in Lehigh Acres, Amy Wegman, Fox 4.
Yeah, I definitely need to see the artist who is painting those trees just to the left of that shoulder there. Well, Amy did tell us that the link to bid on these barrels isn't up and running just yet, but of course we will let you know once it is so you can take part if you're interested in supporting this amazing cause.
A swarm of bees brings one man to his knees.
Yeah, now we're just finding out just how many other people they went after when someone hit a little too close to home.
We are tracking isolated showers and storms here across Southwest Florida, but more of us will be affected here in the next couple of days. We'll dive deeper into where these storms will be developing coming up.
All right, this one is that you have to see to believe. Okay, I'm getting the puns out of the way now, okay, Chris? Most of us have to watch out for bees, whether we're outside, maybe mowing the lawn. You just want to let them be.
Yeah, but it can get real serious. Check out what happened to a man while he was walking down a street. This is from Los Angeles, where a bee swarm led to a man collapsing. But just moments after this, though, the man, though, was able to get up and walk away. And fortunately, someone was able to treat this man.
Yeah, the question here was, thankfully, if he was allergic or not. But we spoke to one bee removal expert, and he says bees rarely attack people on random.
What you mean, like, is, when they attack, pretty much, is when you get too close to their home, then they feel threatened. That's when bees attack, really. Other than that, bees don't really attack people unless, like, you're grabbing them, like, with your bare hands or stepping on them with your bare foot, But usually it's if you're too close to their home.
In total, at least 2 people got stung by the bees. Right now, there's no word of where this specific swarm came from. The U.S. Agriculture Department is also looking to pour out chocolate milk from school cafeterias for elementary and middle school students for good.
Yeah, the USDA is looking into the added sugars in the flavored milk, and some point to rising rates of childhood obesity. Others think that getting rid of chocolate milk will lead to children drinking less milk overall and lower the intake of calcium and other nutrients.
And chocolate milk does have double the sugar of most other white milks. The USDA is expected to make the decision on what to do with chocolate milk for schools, again, elementary and middle school, by the 1st of next year.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring in a mom who has 2 young ones, shaking her head. Katie, your boys, do they like chocolate milk?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the 6-year-old, now that he's discovered it, of course, that's the only option.
Yes.
Thankfully, the little guy, the 3-year-old, doesn't know about it just yet.
Okay.
So we're trying to keep that under wraps.
Yeah, good luck with that.
It's
Once
still
they get it discovered, we'll see where it goes.
Trying to keep it pretty limited. I completely, though, understand that. Meanwhile, for those of you heading out this evening, I do advise having some nice cold water. We are dealing with very hot temperatures outside right now. Temperatures still running in the lower 90s, and that heat humidity helping to fuel some spotty showers and storms here across southwest Florida. Before we break down radar, let's get a live look outside right now from atop the beautiful Fox 4 studios here in Cape Coral. And here we are looking down Pine Island Road. You guessed it, we're looking inland. You can see those cumulus clouds, even some downpours there on the horizon. That storm, actually, we were just looking at all the way over here on the other side of I-75. So showers and storms this evening, they are pretty isolated. Where we have the strongest cell right now in between LaBelle and Felda. So if you are traveling to and from, we have very heavy rain, nearly stationary, as well as frequent cloud-to-ground lightning. It is a fairly strong cell. I could foresee some gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour out of this particular thunderstorm. Meanwhile, up toward News, thankfully not seeing any lightning with this particular shower, but again, it's just going to have to rain itself out because they're nearly stationary. Same story over Alva, traveling down 78 to 80. Perhaps you're heading back to Fort Myers Shores into Buckingham, and this downpour has just kind of settled in. It's going to be with us likely for the next half hour or so, again, until these showers fully rain themselves out just to the east of the Manatee Park. As for our temperatures today, yet again above average. Fort Myers hitting 92, the average being 90. Punta Gorda right on target for this time of year at 90 degrees. Naples moderated by the Gulf, a little bit cooler there, hitting a high of 88. So records today not in jeopardy. Live look at quiet conditions northward from the Luminary Hotel. We have those high thin cirrus clouds out there. We do have those cumulus clouds as well. We're at 88 degrees, but factor in that humidity. Look how hot it feels even at this hour, even as we approach 7 p.m. It's still feeling more like 94 degrees. It's helping you plan out your evening. Partly cloudy skies will prevail as we continue through 8 to 9 o'clock. Those showers and storms, by the way, that we do have on radar, those will be dying out shortly after sunset, which is right around 8:06. We'll continue to stay dry at the coast. Those temperatures staying pretty warm and sticky overnight tonight. Could see a lingering sprinkle right here at 11. Otherwise, a partly cloudy sky forecast for the morning drive. Could see some areas of patchy haze and fog develop with that higher humidity out there. Otherwise, looking ahead to your Wednesday afternoon, best chance for those isolated downpours staying inland, primarily for Glades as well as Hendry counties, with that breeze picking up out of the west. And it will be gusty at times. We'll see some gusts tomorrow around 20 miles per hour. On the flip side, that also means that the coastline will stay dry. So good news for those of you perhaps heading toward the beach. Overnight tonight, partly cloudy. Again, some areas of haze and fog can't be ruled out for that morning commute as we start off around 74. Afternoon temperatures pushing toward 90, but it's going to be feeling more like 93 to 95 because of that humidity. Inland storms again expected for your Thursday. Then looking ahead to the weekend, of course, scattered afternoon and evening storms expected for all of us here across Southwest Florida with highs in the lower 90s.
Thanks, Katie. We'll be right back. The FDA approved a new type of drug for women to treat hot flashes and night sweats.
So in tonight's Your Healthy Family, Fox 4's Lisa Greenberg takes a look at what that means when it comes to new ways to help women through menopause.
More than 1 million women in our country go through menopause every year. The National Institutes of Health says symptoms can last years and can have a major impact on a woman's quality of life. But some health experts say a new treatment can help. It's Women's Health Care Month, and in today's Your Healthy Family, I'm showing you a procedure that one woman says has her feeling like herself again.
Lori Lane says she's always loved being active. But in her late 50s, she started feeling tired, lacked motivation to work out, and said her joints were in pain.
I went to my gynecologist and said, I have all these symptoms. And, he's like, congratulations, this is menopause.
Lane also had other symptoms like brain fog and hot flashes. She says she struggled with it all for about 2 years, and it took a toll on her.
All these things coming at you, it just, made you feel not like a whole person.
She says a blood test revealed her testosterone was low, which made her a candidate for a procedure at Orlando Health. A low dose of testosterone is delivered through a pellet injected under the skin during a quick office visit.
But as time goes on, I think you're going to see this become
a pseudo standard of care that will be an option for almost all patients to see if they can improve upon these menopausal symptoms.
The testosterone procedure is not FDA approved right now, but Dr. Terrence Pepe says it's bringing some relief to many of his patients. He says it lasts between 12 and 16 weeks.
There's a little bit of risk behind estrogen. There's no risk behind testosterone. So it's a safe hormone. We monitor the dosing level in about 4 weeks to make sure that we're looking for the appropriate range that's therapeutic.
Lane says she started seeing results within days, and she's back to feeling like herself again.
I'd say I'm functioning in all cylinders.
So good to hear. Now, Dr. Pepe says the testosterone procedure isn't typically covered by insurance, and each pellet costs about $350. Since it's effective for 12 to 16 weeks, he says the treatment ends up being between $80 and $100 a month. For Your Healthy Family, I'm Lisa Greenberg, and for more health stories, head to fox4now.com/yourhealthyfamily.
To the ice as the Florida Everblades wrap up another series. Now they're in the Final Four for the ECHL. Last night, the current keepers of the Kelly Cup skated past Jacksonville 5-2 in Game 6 to win that series. So here's how the upcoming Eastern Conference Finals will work. The first 3 games will be in Estero Hertz Arena for this best-of-7 series against the Newfoundland Growlers. Game 1 Friday, Game 2 Saturday, Game 3 on Monday. But all of the remaining games, up to 4 of them for the series, will be up in Newfoundland. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, we'll definitely be watching that one. And we thank you for watching us here on Fox 4 News at 6.
And hope you can make it back tonight for Fox 4 News at 10. Make it a great Tuesday night.
Have a good night.
Now at 6, a trial 33 years in the making. Joseph Zeiler faces prosecutors in the killings of an 11-year-old girl, Robin Cornell, and her babysitter, Lisa Story.
Seeing these little bags that had rice in them, and I picked it up because of the rice and not because of the paper.
That paper and the message on it now has a neighborhood on edge and the law involved.
I don't want a handout. I just want to be able to get into an apartment.
Struggling to find a home after Ian, and more people who are in need are seniors.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
Well, opening statements are done and the first witnesses take the stand in a double murder cold case trial 3 decades in the making. Thank you for watching Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Nadine Yanis.
I'm Chris Earl. 33 years after an 11-year-old girl and her mother's friend serving as a babysitter that night were raped and killed in the Cape Coral home in 1990. Now the trial is underway.
Yeah, and that first witness to take the stand was the mother who had to bury her 11-year-old daughter in 1990, facing that accused killer in court.
And that's little girl, Robin Cornell, as well as a 32-year-old friend, Lisa Story, both died that night. Joseph Zeiler, now 61, is facing murder charges in their killings. He could get the death penalty if convicted. Fox 4's Brianna Brownlee is live inside the Lee County Courthouse. As Bree, we heard the details this woman had to relive from what happened back in 1990.
Yes, today in court, we learned more about that morning when Jan Cornell came home to find her 11-year-old daughter, Robin Cornell, and her friend, 32-year-old Lisa Story, dead inside her home. Jan did say the last thing she told her daughter was, "Good night, I love you, and I'm off to go see my boyfriend."
46?
Yes.
50?
Yes. Breaking down while seeing the photos from the Cape Coral crime scene where her 11-year-old daughter, Robin Cornell, and 32-year-old friend, Lisa Story, were both killed.
What did you notice when you started CPR?
That she had a lot of congestion, like she had really been crying.
Jan Cornell remembers the terrible moment when she walked